a kinesthetic sculptor, artist, musician, poet. And thank you so much for starting us off, Steve.
Thank you. Yeah, not the musician, although I can sing badly, but I'm not sure that really counts. So actually, I just really want to thank Angela and Michelle for this amazing opportunity. Angela said to me, actually, at this particular moment, I'm going to excuse myself. I'll be back.
We hope.
Yeah. Yes, elevator music would be nice. So, look, I'm one of the few poets that requires a motor to perform poetry. So, Angela gave me this opportunity, and I had a mild panic. I did have a mild panic because I don't really know what poetry is. No offense to the poets in this room, and invited me to do a poetry performance. I said, yes, I can do one of those. And so I went to bed, and I woke up in the middle of the night with an image in my head of a chicken that eats itself. A self-eating chicken. Is it not turning? It should be turning at this point. Okay, and I'm going to have to put the microphone down. This is all part of the performance. This is all absolutely part of the performance. So, what I see myself as is a poet who... See, I really see myself as a poet. Do I need this microphone?
No.
No.
Yes?
Live stream.
Oh, we're live streaming. Okay, so I need this microphone. So, I see myself as a poet who makes machines that reach for longing. But then this vision occurred to me in the middle of the night. It's not rotating, okay? What you need to do, as audience members, it's important to use your imagination. So you've got to picture this rotating, okay? Very important. If you get that wrong, you're not going to get the full experience. So essentially, this is the thing that occurred to me in the middle of the night. And I realized, is this a machine for longing? Or is this chicken a chicken that's somehow trying to eat itself? And is a chicken that's trying to eat itself somehow also a machine to reach for longing? So as you can see from this example over here, this non-turning example, I am very interested in making extremely sensitive devices for measuring the longing in the universe. What is this thing called longing? And you may wonder, where does this compulsion to understand longing come from? It's a very good question if that is what you're wondering. Now, this actually happened to me about, I'd say, 7 years ago. I was brushing my teeth, like one does, and on a daily basis. I'm brushing my teeth, and imagine this is the toothbrush, all right? My hand was resting on the sink, all right? Just resting on the sink. And I looked at it, and I thought, oh my God. First of all, there's this hand lying on the sink. And I thought, first of all, it looked a lot like my father's hand, which I thought was kind of unusual and interesting. And I was, I wonder if I can make this hand move. That is the thought that I had while brushing my teeth. I stood there for a while, I looked at the hand, it's shaking a bit now, but imagine it being super still, and imagine there's a sink over there. And I said, can I lift this hand? And I did. Now, that may seem trivial, but I was completely blown away in that moment by the fact that I was able to lift my hand, or possibly even my father's hand, which is actually even more impressive. So I was able to lift it through the air. And then so from that moment I thought, what is it about things in the universe wanting to stretch and reach across space? I thought there was a really interesting phenomenon in our particular universe. And then I realized, maybe our universe is kind of unique. There's something fundamental. What is the fundamental axiom of our universe? And I realized what it is. Our universe, and I can't speak for the other ones, is non-indifferent. Okay, I'm a bit of a scientist, okay? So I like to find axioms. Our universe is non-indifferent. It seems to want things to move and reach towards each other. There's something really unique about that. Now you've got to imagine at the most fundamental level, it didn't have to be this way. And maybe we are just unique in our universe. Maybe particles move towards each other and they just pass each other like ships in the night. Notice that poetic phrase, ships in the night. So just give me a tick there for a bit of poetry. There's something but that is not how our universe works. Our universe, things reach towards each other, and sometimes, if they get close enough, they affect each other's behavior. And they can do this little dance together and forever change. That becomes what the future is. Their behavior is forever changed into the future. And I think it's a really thought that was a phenomenally fascinating thing about. So our universe has this property of reaching for longing and for wanting to interact with other things. I thought that's a really interesting property, but what does it mean? And is it gravity? Again, I must admit that I'm a scientist by training. Is gravity responsible? Can we blame gravity for this? Because this reaching for longing has consequences. I mean, just ask this chicken with a fork and a knife. There's consequences to all this reaching and this non-indifference, okay? So who's to blame? Is it gravity? Now, gravity has this thing about it. And the thing about gravity, did you bring you might want to take notes, is that it's called the inverse square law, all right? The inverse square law. So the further away two objects are, the less the effect they have on each other. So that's fine, but the further things get away, there's not much effect. Now, if I just think about this, if I just take out my phone here and I start agitating atoms in my brain, I can make atoms agitate on my phone, and then 10,000 miles away, somebody's atoms are going to get agitated by what I typed on them. And unlike the inverse square law, which gets less over time, their reaction might be super amplified. They might be more excited than I am right now. And I am actually quite excited right now. So it's kind of weird. So what is going on here? Something has happened. This didn't happen a billion years ago, right? The universe was much more dull a billion years ago. Things didn't affect each other that way. Something has changed. It could be something about, let's think about the chicken. I wonder if the chicken has the same experience. So maybe it's something about humans. Imagine this chicken has a cousin somewhere, let's say at a factory farm or feedlot somewhere in maybe Nebraska, a cousin. And let's say this chicken dies of some mysterious causes. I don't think this chicken's going to care. So it's something about humans. I might be wrong. The chicken may care. So I'm being a little bit judgmental here. I'm being a little bit specious. But I mean, this chicken is not doing it. It's not even rotating. It's not even rotating. So, all right. So that's all fine. There's something about its time. Time seems to be important. And so does, what was that other thing I mentioned? People. People seem to somehow be important. Now, I brought a toolbox because, I did bring another machine. Just give me a moment while I go to my toolbox. I'll put that over there. Yes, I have this other machine here. This is actually quite a sophisticated machine. Now this machine, I should give you the history of it because it's really quite interesting. This machine was in a chair, all right? It was sitting in a chair for many years, and I don't know what it was doing in the chair. I think it was, holding up bums to some extent. And now, this machine is finding it quite peculiar to now be on a stage in front of a room full of strangers going to be doing something else. Now, this machine is actually a very sophisticated device called a touching machine, right? So it's for measuring the amount of touching in different systems. So, if I push down on that, it's really quite boring. Nothing is happening. So I'm talking about now, let's touch the universe. What happens when you touch the universe? If I push that down on the spring, not much. If I do the same amount of pressing on the butterfly, that butterfly is squashed. If Donald Trump does the same amount of pushing in his Oval Office on the red button, the universe is gone. Well, not the universe, but the world is kind of done. And that's the same amount of pushing that is required if you are trying to test how soft your dough is when you're baking bread. So there's something about, maybe it's not how much pushing you do, but it's what is being pushed. Do you see the scientific method at work here? So this is a very sophisticated, I can pass, would anyone like to see the machine for the touching machine? You can pass it around. I do need it back though. It's a bit more sophisticated than it first let on. Right, so there's something about the touching. Now, whenever you bring science and poetry together, you have to talk about entropy. Okay? Now, what is entropy? Entropy is this tendency of the universe to go from a highly ordered state, like let's say a salt crystal, down to complete nothing. So basically, on the way down from high order, like the Big Bang, to the end of the universe, when the universe runs out of things to do, when it doesn't want to do anything else, you get what's called heat death. You're going there, but something happened. Something happened, this time thing. Something happened between the salt crystal, or the Big Bang, very fancy salt crystal, and the end of the universe. That hasn't happened yet, by the way. Or maybe it has. But there's an in-between place where strange things started to happen. Things like you and me. Basically, all this longing, this needing, this got together in space, was co-located in space. So we got the idea of things starting to mean something. That's where we got our words from, right? Now we have our words in this in-between space. And it turns out that the way you arrange the words has meaning. If you change the meaning of the thing you're trying to say changes. So words are a kind of matter. Am I right? The chicken is a kind of matter. It's a kind of thing that's also could only probably have happened because we are at this strange place in the universe. It's not going to be here for long. We're not going to be here for long. It's running down, and the universe is eventually going to think, that's enough, and we're going to get to this place where it'll be a bit quieter, a bit calmer. Now, we are now very close to what is the end, and so, but before we get there, we have to just ask ourselves this one really important question. What is in the fundamental architecture of the universe that requires all of this longing and reaching? What is in the fundamental architecture of the universe? Now, the only thing I can think of is that things are just trying to return. That's the only thing that really makes any logical sense, right? Is all this moving through space, things are trying to get back to where they came from. Am I right? 2 is trying to become back to 1. I'm trying to get back to you. I guess this fork is trying to get back to the spoon, the chicken to the fork, and eventually, if it all goes according to plan, the knife into the toaster. Now, that's just the consequence of leaving Eden, right? When we left Eden all those years ago, all that mythology ago, to get back there is just really messy. And that is where this poem actually ends. All right? So I'm not good at ending poems, but I do want to thank you all for coming. And it has been a very strange and wonderful pleasure to have engaged with you all here tonight. So thank you.